Okay, now remember that plates can move three different ways. They can move towards each other, which is convergent boundary. They can move away from each other, which is divergent, or they can move past each other, which is transform. We're going to look at all three kinds, and starting with convergent boundary when they're moving towards each other. Now, it's really hard to show with a cardboard model because, as we know, sometimes the Earth breaks and it moves and it bends. So basically, it depends on what kind of plates you have. You're going to have to use my arms as an example. If it's two continental pieces of crust that are crushing, that are going to each other, these are really light, so they can't really sink one on top of the other. So when they collide, it's like two cars where you see their hoods kind of crumple up and rise up like that. And this rise on top of the crust is actually a mountain range. And this is how mountain ranges form when two pieces of continental crust collide and buckle, and they have nowhere to go. A great example of this is India, the Indian plate colliding into Asia, and it's just a crash and still happening. The Himalayas are getting taller and taller. These crashes happen over millions of years. If it's two oceanic plates, or if it's one oceanic plate and one continental plate, the oceanic plate is really dense enough it can sink down. So sometimes when these come together, the oceanic plate sinks down, and that's sinking right here and going down. And that process right there, that's called subduction. So when it goes down there, it melts because it's so hot there. And sometimes that magma can get hot and rise to the surface and erupt as a volcano. So you get two kind of things when you have subduction. You get, first of all, a trench, which is like a big ditch, because this sinking plate here kind of drags down the other plate. And you see how right here there's a little ditch where instead of going straight across, the land dips down and goes through. Watch this. You see how it creates that ditch? That's called an ocean trench, and that's a long ditch, and those are the deepest parts of the ocean where we find some of the weird fish like you've seen in Finding Nemo. And then the other thing that it forms, other than a trench, is it usually forms the volcanoes here, usually at the edge of a continent, like what forms in South America, the Andes Mountains, which are volcanic, or it can form islands in the middle of the ocean. A good example of this is Japan. Japan is a series of volcanic islands, and that is called an island arc, which is volcanic. It's right next to the edge of the plate. Okay, that's it for convergent boundaries.